September 3, 1939. The city of Częstochowa falls without a single shot fired. No barricades. No soldiers in the streets. No last stand. Just a city holding its breath as German boots march through quiet roads in the grey morning light. For one day, it stays that way. Then, the afternoon of September 4th arrives. And everything changes. Gunfire. Somewhere close. Then everywhere. Nobody knows where it's coming from. The men are screaming. Officers shouting. It doesn't matter, the order is already given. Round them up. Within hours, thousands of civilians, men, women, children, are dragged from their homes and forced into public squares. By nightfall, between 227 and 500 of them are dead. Poles, Jews, all ages. Shot in courtyards, beside churches, in the back of the head over open trenches. The Germans call it a response to partisan attack. It is a lie. And we can prove it. But here's what makes this story different from every other massacre buried in the chaos of September 1939. This one doesn't stay buried. The men who did this kept marching. Through France. Through Yugoslavia. Into the Soviet Union. All the way to a frozen port city on the Black Sea. And there, 2 years later, history found them. But before we uncover the rest of this story, drop a comment and share one forgotten fact about World War II that most people don't know. We're always looking to learn from you. To support the channel and help us grow our mission of uncovering these untold stories, please hit the like button and subscribe with the notification bell turned on. Sharing this video with a fellow history buff is the best way to help us keep this history alive. Częstochowa in the summer of 1939 was a city of 138,000 people. 30 kilometers from the German border. When war came, many families fled, women and children moving deeper into the country, men reporting for military duty. By the time the German 42nd Regiment of the 46th Infantry Division approached, the city was largely deserted. Those who stayed because they had nowhere else to go. German commanders expected trouble. They associated the working-class population with communist sympathies and ordered their men to establish firm authority immediately. But when they marched in at dawn on September 3 road, there was nothing to establish authority over. The city was calm. The reports said so themselves. One day. That's how long it lasted. One day of quiet. Then, a crack of gunfire in a schoolyard. Then another, streets away. Nobody sees who's shooting. The men are green, half of them have never been in combat. They fire back at windows, walls, shadows. 8 Germans go down. 14 wounded. And just like that, it's the Poles' fault. German officers immediately blamed the city's Polish and Jewish inhabitants. They claimed partisans had launched a coordinated attack. But the evidence told a different story. Searches of nearby homes turned up no weapons. No civilians were found carrying firearms. German soldiers' own diary entries described bullets flying from every direction with no identifiable source. The 4th Army Corps Chief Medical Officer stated plainly that he did not believe civilians had fired on German troops. Even Einsatzgruppe 2, one of the Nazi mobile death squads deployed alongside the regular army, admitted in their own internal report that it became impossible to determine who had been shooting at whom. That admission matters. Because Einsatzgruppe 2 wasn't writing for posterity. They weren't writing for tribunals or historians. They were writing for themselves, and even they couldn't make the story hold. What almost certainly happened was friendly fire. German recruits, inexperienced and terrified, shooting wildly in a city where tracer rounds bounced off stone walls and glowed in the windows. 8 of their own men died. And 500 civilians paid for it. Retaliation was immediate and organized. German soldiers moved through the city in coordinated sweeps, kicking in doors, pulling families into the streets, marching thousands toward 3 central assembly points. Magistrate Square. The New Market. The square in front of the cathedral. Face down. Hours. In the dirt. Don't move. Don't look up. Men separated from their wives. Children watching. A soldier finds a razor blade in a man's pocket. That's enough. Possession of a razor blade. A penknife. Anything that could be construed as a weapon, sufficient grounds for immediate execution. At Magistrate Square, civilians were lined up and shot at point-blank range. In the courtyard behind the town hall, victims were shot in the back of the head beside anti-aircraft trenches. 48 bodies would be recovered from that single location. At St. Sigismund's Church, the New Market, the Brasser factory, the military hospital, similar killings. Witnesses recalled German soldiers at the New Market forcing Jewish civilians to jump over a trench while beating them and laughing. The churches fill up. 10,000 people. The doors close. They fire warning shots over the crowd's heads. They say they'll kill everyone. Some they do, right there, on the floor of the cathedral. Nobody leaves. Not even for a moment. Not for anything. By morning, the air inside is barely breathable. German military reports initially listed 99 executed. In early 1940, when German authorities themselves ordered exhumations, investigators uncovered 227 bodies. 194 men, 25 women, 8 children, 205 Polish, 22 Jewish. Later analyses raised the estimate further, between 300 and 500 killed across those 2 days. That gap between 99 and 500 isn't rounding error. That's deliberate erasure. An attempt to contain the record before the record could be read. It didn't work. After Częstochowa, the 46th Infantry Division kept moving. France, 1940. Yugoslavia, 1941. Then east, into the Soviet Union, through Ukraine, down into Crimea. By November 1941, the same regiment that had dragged families into squares and shot civilians into trenches stood on the edge of the Black Sea. The port city of Feodosia fell to German forces. For a moment, it seemed like the war's momentum was irreversible. Like these men might simply keep marching, keep surviving. But momentum on the Eastern Front was always fragile. Supply lines stretched thin. Winter arrived without warning, or was ignored until it wasn't. And the Soviets had something the Germans often underestimated: the will to come back. December 29, 1941. Soviet Marine troops and regular infantry land on the beaches of Feodosia. By the following morning, the city is retaken. In the chaos of retreat, German commanders abandon approximately 160 wounded soldiers, men from the 46th and 170th Infantry Divisions, in military hospitals throughout the city. Too injured to move. Left behind with a handful of doctors and nurses. You don't know what's coming. You're in a bed. You can't walk. Maybe you can't even sit up. You hear the shelling move closer and then stop. And then you hear boots. Different boots. And voices you don't understand. What happened next was recorded by witnesses, including Russian medical personnel present in those hospitals. Soviet troops entered the buildings. Some were drunk. They shot doctors and nurses first. Then they turned to the wounded. Some soldiers were thrown from windows onto rocks below. Others were dragged into the winter cold, mutilated, doused with water, and left to freeze solid where they lay. Many were beaten to death in their beds. When German forces recaptured Feodosia on January 18, 1942, they found the evidence beneath thin layers of snow and sand. Bodies stacked in a ruined cemetery building, still wearing their splints and plaster casts. Frozen corpses on the beach, limbs shattered. In the end, only 12 of the wounded Germans survived, hidden for days while the others were hunted and killed one by one. Among the dead, men of the 46th. The same division. The same men. This is where history gets uncomfortable. What happened in Feodosia was a war crime. Documented. Inexcusable. The murder of wounded soldiers and medical staff violates every rule of war that existed then, or now. But the men who died in those hospitals were not random soldiers caught in someone else's war. They were the 46th Infantry Division. They had walked through Częstochowa. They had stood in those squares. Some of them had pulled triggers. And the ones who hadn't, had watched, and said nothing, and kept marching. History rarely delivers the kind of clean reckoning we want. What it delivers instead is this: a frozen port city. A beach covered in bodies. A unit that massacred civilians in Poland meeting its end at the hands of a military that had learned, through years of Nazi brutality, to respond in kind. Justice. Or just more killing. Maybe there's no difference by then. Maybe that's the point. The civilians of Częstochowa never got a trial. Never got a tribunal. Never got names carved into stone in every language. What they got was this: a story that survived. And sometimes, that's the only justice history offers. If you're here for the stories that don't make it into textbooks, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and share this with someone who needs to know. The history they buried is exactly what we're here to uncover.